Hello, welcome to this week's webinar. I'm Anton Santucci.
My name is Chris Barron.
And we're going to be going over using automated groups. Yeah, and that's the power of groups and automate. So, let's get into it. We are going to talk about groups today, so let's take a look at the agenda. We're going to do a basic overview, what are groups if you're completely new, but we're going to pay attention more to the behavior. So the power of auto-join searches and the power of using that limit to search feature. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and I'm going to send it on over to my buddy Chris, and he's going to talk about using default groups, configuring groups, and managing groups. So we'll have a two-part demo here. I'll do the first part, and then Chris will pick up and do the last part for us. Sound good, Chris?
I'm full on board.
He's full on board. That's what we like to hear. So, just a little overview. We say here at Automate that groups are the vehicle that deliver your services. So when we tell our clients, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this for you, we deliver them out of a group, right, Chris?
Absolutely.
So it's very important to know how groups behave because they can save you so much time and make you run so much more efficiently. And that's where the purpose comes in. So considering they're the backbone of Automate, it's really important that you understand how it functions because improper management of these groups can lead to a whole bunch of chaos in your Automate system, right?
Absolutely. Make sure we know what's going on, so we use groups to kind of control it. Instead of doing anything individually,
Right.
You know what, we use the groups and we try to automate that as much as possible, kind of take that manual intervention and possible shenanigans.
Yes.
We want to take the shenanigans out of it.
Want to get the shenanigans out of the way. There, I like that. So by managing these groups in an organized and scalable way, you can reduce the complexity of Automate, and you can really make streamlining training when you're bringing people in more efficient because everybody knows they'll follow the same guidelines. And again, you're doing it the most efficient way. And that's what I'm going to actually be pretty much trying to deliver to you today in this webinar is the things that are pro tips when using groups, okay? So let's first look at the behavior. So here are some behavior behind groups, and it's very important to remember this. Groups is a big part of automation in Automate. You know, when we say automation, everybody thinks what, Chris?
Automate. Yeah.
Yeah, scripts. That's what he meant to say. Because scripts were always like, oh, they're going to do the work for you. But groups are literally part of that automation process because they rebuild themselves every 30 minutes, they refresh. So you'll see when we talk about searches, if we're looking to grab a particular machine that wasn't in that group a half an hour ago, it will be in 30 minutes automatically. So in my opinion, that's automation, and that we don't have to worry about that and check on it manually. We're going to make sure that we always tell you to fill out a group as a grayed out master, that this is just so, it was for legacy back in the day, but this is to make sure that all your machines stay static in that group, right, Chris?
Yep, it allows, like the grade master classification just allows all my groups to play nice with all the other groups. Not
Best
trying
way
to
to put
steal members from other group,
Right.
Won't try to kind of lose members of their own group. So the grade master is that balance between the good and the evil of the forces. We want to stick right there in the gray area.
That's a great way to put it. All right, now using the limit to search feature is a good behavior that we always recommend using when you're using groups. So I'm going to go in and give you a good example of this. A real quick, should be easy example for you to do this. So let's just talk about what our auto-join search is first. How does it know? How does the group know what machines need to join this group? Because whether you like it or not, in Automate, a machine is going to be part of more than one group. It's just going to happen. It happens during the onboarding process. And how does it know where to go? Well, it uses auto-join searches that we're getting ready to dive into. And that lends us, why would we use some of these? Why do you think we use these auto-join searches?
So I know what's going to happen.
Exactly, right? Because if I don't have auto-join searches that actually do this in the background automatically, then I'm dragging and dropping machines into groups. I'm going to fat finger something, it's going to fall over into the wrong group. I'm going to wonder why. So the first one, predictable results, makes a lot of sense, right? We know what's going to happen. Consistent policies. So we know how the groups work. We're driving them all the same way. We know the policies are going to be the same. And again, it rebuilds every 30 minutes, so there's no manual interaction. Once we set the auto-join search, we tell it to go out and get laptop machines. We don't have to worry if a laptop comes online if it's going to join that group because it will automatically through the auto-join search. So let me jump in here and let me just give you a quick rundown and a demo of how this would work. So I just came in, right-clicked on groups, said add a new group, and I named it software install. So I'm just going to walk you through a scenario verbally. Let's say we just turned 2017 this year. Back in 2016, it was something, I'm a new MSP, so right off the bat, I told anybody who joined under my MSP, I'm going to give you particular software for free. I'm going to install it, and I'm going to maintain it. And that was really to get my client base up and running. But then when 2017 came by, I don't want to do that to any new clients. But I will allow their laptop machines for my new clients to receive that same software. So let's take a look at this group. Just saying this, the first thing we do, we open it up. I named it intuitively, software install. It doesn't need a template, doesn't need a priority. We don't need to get into all that. We're going to be looking at the auto join. So since I needed all my machines to be part of this, because that's what I originally gave away for regardless if you're a desktop, server, or laptop, I went ahead and put computer types to all computers. Now there was no reason for me to check limit 2, right, Chris? Because it's all computers. I'm not limited to any certain type of machine. So I just leave it with that check unchecked. If I go over to the computers tab, these are all the machines that are in my Automate system. Makes sense. So now if I move over to the scripted schedule scripts tab, here's my software install script. So eventually in 2016, when everybody got onboarded, this group would look and say, hey, you're a system in Automate, come with me. It would plop it into this group. This script would run, and it's adding the software that I gave to desktops, laptops, and servers for free because you joined me in 2016. Now here's where I want you to pay attention. Here's where just knowing and understanding how that limit 2 search feature works can save you a lot of time. 27 comes along. I made sure to tell all my new, not existing, but all my new clients in 2017, your laptops, no problem, I'm going to take care of them with this software, but your desktops and servers, you're going to have to pay additional for that. So what do? I come in here, and if I come in here and I select this drop down, I can simply just select laptop computers. Now here's where the magic happens. I put it to laptop computers, but I did not check limit 2. And that is the very important part that our partners don't seem to understand the power of that little checkbox. Because what will happen, now it's 2017. I didn't check the limit 2 and I kept the search for laptops only. What's the behavior of this group now after a half an hour? Or I hit preview run. What's it going to do to the desktops and servers that were in there before?
It's going to keep them in there.
It's going to keep them in there. And a lot of times our partners do not understand this and they'll build out separate groups, nesting groups, making them more complex than it needs to be. But this is a great example of showing you how easy and how powerful a checkbox can be. So what it will do is detect any laptop that comes on after I flip the switch, right? So it's 2017. Now I have it only looking for laptops. So it's basically duck, duck, goose. Oh, you're a laptop? Come with me. You're a desktop? I'm not taking you. Now, if I wanted to, which is another good flexible situation, what if I had 1 or 2 off servers that I really did want to drop in here because I wanted to give them that software for free? I could then just drag and drop into this group and let go, and it will allow them to take place in that group, and it won't kick them out in a half an hour because that checkbox is not selected. Does that make sense to you, Chris?
It does, and then the way I always kind of relay it to the partners is that limit 2 protects the integrity of my group. If I create a group and I attach a search to it and I only want these devices in this group, well, that limit 2 protects the integrity in there. On the flip side, another example is like, you know what, I have servers that I want to install software on. Well, if I accidentally manually throw a desktop in there, well, that can cause some serious damage.
Absolutely.
I don't want a desktop in a server group. So that protects the integrity of my group by checking that box. I accidentally drop a desktop in there. Oh, within 30 minutes to say, hey, you're not a server, get the heck out.
That's
right. Protecting the integrity of my groups, that's what I'm all about. And that's kind of my little 2 cents to add to that little checkbox. Does a whole world of good.
It does. It does a lot of power in Automate. So we wanted to spend a little time right in the front end of this and talk about that. I think that was a great example. Let me give you one more. Now, when I hit this drop down, I'm looking at these auto join searches, and what are these? These are just searches that we have in our system. So we're not going to get into searches deep. This is a groups webinar, but right under searches, all the searches that are available in my navigation tree are also available in my drop down. So let me give you one more scenario, how quick and powerful this can be. Now, I went over here and I created a new group called BIOS. Now here is a great example of how automation can occur right through a group. And what I'm going to do here is I had to create my own search. So we're not going to go in and do that heavy. I'll just show it to you. I'll come under searches. Here is my BIOS search under custom, because we always say make sure you put it under your own folder, right? And when I bring this up, you'll be able to see I just built out this search. And when I hit search at the top of the search in advanced, it shows me every machine that actually would be in that group. So where am I going with this? Let me show you. This is powerful. So now that I created this group named BIOS, I'm looking for every BIOS that has the version of 6.0. I was told I needed all the machines that have a BIOS version of 6.0 and I need to flash them to 7. So what I can do and make sure this happens all the time through automation is all I had to do was create that search, apply it to the auto joins section under the drop down as I did here, and then I made sure to select that limit too. When I do that, I go over to the computers tab. Yes. And here's all the machines that fit that criteria. So that means that all these machines have that version 6. Not done. I go to my schedule script tab, and here is my script that's actually going to do the BIOS flash to make it 7.0. So what happens in a half an hour time when all these machines have been in this group, they've been collected, and then that scheduled script fires off? What's going to happen to the machines after that script runs successfully?
Well, I'm going to guess here, just randomly off the top of my head.
There you go.
Well, they're no longer going to meet the parameters of that search. So when it comes back and checks in, it'll be like, well, I don't meet the parameters of this search. So it takes them out of that search. Ipso facto, when the group reruns, it's like, hey, you don't belong here anymore. Since I have that limit to search checkbox, it's going to remove those. So that allows me to update them to a specific version.
Exactly.
When they're done, get them out of that group. Get them in, execute, get them out when you're done.
Exactly. So I think that is another great example because we're showing you the cycle. It's just, and it'll do it forever. So we never have to worry about in any of our systems if 6.0 the BIOS is there anymore, because it'll automatically catch it, run the script, change the BIOS version, and then prune them. And it'll continue to do that as long as we keep that group active. So there are my 2 tips and tricks. I'm going to go back out to our PowerPoint. And we are going to change over to the presenter for Chris. He's going to take over the rest of this. Go ahead, tall guy. Let him show him your magic.
All right. So, Tooch so eloquently put, 2 of the big things with groups is kind of understanding how we populate them. The auto join's the biggest piece, and using that limit to, and that behavior of the group. So I'm going to kind of dive through and kind of look at this in a bigger scale and kind of talk to you, well, if I'm new here, how do I set it up? What do I use groups for? So his is the most important in how we kind of populate groups, so we put that in the beginning. Now, let's talk a little bit about the lay of the land and how groups play into what I'm trying to accomplish as a technology solution provider. So notice when you first log into Automate, we have over 250 default groups to get you started. Yeah. So before you start going in there and all, gung-ho to create all these, make sure we don't have the groups that kind of facilitate your needs, because we have a ton. And with those, most of those are pre-configured to auto join based on these characteristics. So he showed you all the searches we had. Well, we're using those within all of our groups. So odds are they're tied to it. So if you find a search that populates what you want, odds are it's attached to a group that you can already use. So don't think you have to get in here and you have to start creating all of your own things. Odds are we do have something in there that's going to fit your bill. Which brings me to this. As he kind of talked about with searches, the kind of motto around here is don't change our default groups.
Right.
All right? They're built for a reason, doing a specific job for the specific task. So when it looks like, hey, I have this group, but I want to tweak it, I want to change how it's being populated, all right, now we have that conversation, changes versus custom. And so when we kind of get along that lines, you got to kind of get this mindset of, hey, I don't want to change anything, but I kind of want to do the same thing. So I'm going to create my own group to add to my default group. So if we have all of them in there, they're used for a specific purpose. Now I'm getting to the point where I have to add to it, and I'm starting to build my own custom thing. So we have to talk about how these groups work. And I'm going to use the scenario or the terminology of parent-child. And most people in IT, they understand that relationship. Hey, what the parent passes down to the child. Some people use group, subgroup. But when you create a new group, you have to know that there are these inherited qualities that we pass down from parent to child. So when you're creating a default group, do I want to start with a parent group where, you know what, I want to kind of put the children in all by myself, or do I like what's going on with them in our default groups and I just want to kind of append to it? Because that's a very important question when you get to this point, because if I create that child with an existing parent, I'm going to inherit a lot of the qualities that are there. I'm going to inherit the type of group that it is, and we'll talk a little bit about types later. Any templates that are applied, they're going to be passed down to the child. If I have monitors, they're automatically going to pass down. And any scripts that are scheduled, I have the ability to pass those down. So again, when we start looking at this changes versus custom, I got to know where I'm going to put my group. A perfect example is like, you know what, I love to have the service plans that you provide, but I want to build my own service plan. So yes, maybe that's some of the things I want to pass down from parent to child. But I want to build a group that's custom, that's going to install software. Well, I'm going to build that as a parent because I want it separated, because I want to kind of build my own kind of structure beneath it. So when we're looking at all this, I just want to kind of give you that global view, and when you start getting into this, what this is going to do and how you want to build out your system, because you got to know what's going to get passed down from parent to child. So I always like to start here. We got a ton of default groups, go through them, and we'll kind of go through here in a little bit in a quick demo. But some of the things that are inherited, that type, the templates, the monitors, those will get passed down from parent to child. So it's very important that we kind of know that. So I kind of like to lead off with that, so you know when you're looking at this big structure, hey, I got to have that in the back of my mind, because I got to know how everything's going to play out down the road. So now that I have that, I always like to tie into groups, and Tooch mentioned kind of when we start talking about automation, he always goes to scripting, and that's when he went to me. I always go to searches, because I know where searches feed into this big thing. And when we talk about the foundation of automation, when we talk about it, we always look at this structure is searches feed the groups, and from the groups I have all of this automation. And you can see that big thing right in the middle. And this is why I love this, because groups drive all of this automation. We use our searches to populate the groups, and then, all right, what do? We push out templates, we push out monitors, we push out scripts. All of that is all focused on our group. So we got to know what we're dealing with here and how we're putting them together, because they do deliver our managed services, our patching, our monitoring, script scheduling, maintenance windows, and so much more we do at the group level, that we kind of got to know what's going on. And we kind of take a look at this group, and Tooch focused on this top right corner where we're talking about auto join searches, and we talk about the search and the limit to, and we can do that not just for computers, but for network devices and contacts. So we have the ability to auto populate these groups with a bunch of different things. So kind of understanding that structure. But we also got to talk about some more things on this main screen, which is the group type. Let me back up a little bit. Group type is the functionality of this, and not going to go real in depth here, but the group type, do I want this to be a permissions group where I'm organizing permissions for all of the devices in this group? Do I just want it to be an original group where it doesn't really have any classifications? Do I want to add it to the new patch manager so when I open it up, hey, it shows up there? So the group type is going to dictate any special features that we have. And so we got to know what we're going to do here. And also, if I build it as that child, it's going to inherit that group type from the parent, and I can't change it. So we, again, tying back to that kind of changes versus custom, I got to know what's going on. He mentioned the master group checkbox. That's a quick checkbox that just says, hey, we want to always use a grayed out master. That's the way I always teach it. I typically don't even talk about the other ones. What I tell you is when you create a new group, find that checkbox, check it twice, make it a grayed master. It just allows it to play with everybody all nicely. It's not going to try and steal or lose members of its group. We talked about auto join searches. We didn't talk about, but linking. We have the ability to create a search and attach it to any group. But a lot of the functionality within this, I have the ability, additional ability, to link it to a specific client or a specific location. So you can create a search and each search for each location and populate it and create all those, but you can save your step. We can link directly to a location so you don't have to create a whole new search for each location. All you have to do is build the group and then link it to that specific location. You can also do that with clients, but a lot of our partners may not know is we already do that. Right. As soon as you build a new client, we automatically create a group that links it to that client. You populate anything in that client, it's kind of its own auto join. So that's built for you out of the box, and I'll show you that in our demo real quick. Maintenance windows, we apply at the group level. If I want a specific time during the day where I want to do maintenance and I don't want a lot of tickets, I'm going to reboot the machine, I can put it in a maintenance window. Hey, you know what? From midnight to 3 I'm going to be doing maintenance. Don't send me alerts. Don't run any other scripts. I just want to kind of put these all in maintenance. And I have the ability to kind of do this all in the group. Permissions, again, I can set up a permissions type group where I'm going to say, you know what, I don't want to give my technicians access to every client that I have. I just want to give them access to this group, and I can kind of dictate what actions they could perform to the agents in this group. Well, I can use that with the permissions on this main tab. And then, of course, my favorite, notes. Hey, I created a new group. Let's tell everybody what's supposed to be in here.
Absolutely.
You know, maybe even the date it was created, so I can kind of go back and kind of look at that. So you see that there's a lot of stuff here, and I'm just talking about the main screen.
Yep.
So the name, the type, it's all done here. Master group, there's my checkbox, my auto joins, my templates, my priorities, my linking, my maintenance window, my permissions, my notes. That's on page 1. All right, this is all we got to do when we create a new group. We want to focus on this. We want to set it up. We want to do exactly what we want it to do. All right, so all of that lives here. We haven't even gotten to the what we can do with it because we're configuring our groups right now. We want to make sure we're getting that in there. It's performing the way we want. It's getting the right stuff in there. We haven't even done anything yet.
Yep, we haven't delivered anything.
Yeah, so all we're talking about is all that functionality is just on that main page. I haven't even gone anywhere because I have to set this up, get it populated, make sure I know exactly what it's doing before I start monkeying around with anything else. So now, we're going to talk about managing groups. So I got my groups configured, agents populated.
Yep.
Now what?
Where are we going from here?
Well, what else can we do? Well, at this point, it's like, geez, what can't we do
Exactly.
at this point? Once I got that all set up, now I have all the tabs across. I have my computers. Look at all this. I first open that up. I have a list of members that are here. I can right-click on this device just like it was a data view, and I have an offline. You know what? I'm going to right-click here, and I'm going to run my Wake on LAN script. I have the ability to send inventory all here. I can schedule scripts. I can look at my internal monitors. I can look at my remote monitors. Old school, pre-LabTech Patch Manager, I can handle patches at this level. But again, all this information, now we're working across. All the things that I can do are going to be controlled by my groups. Network devices, same thing. I can schedule scripts. I can look at network device monitors on there. I can right click. I can get in here. I can do some things. Contacts, same deal here, is as I'm going across. Another cool thing, info. When we talk about extra data fields, if you've never heard that term before, we kind of call it EDFs. Extra data fields allow me to create checkboxes and drop-downs and text files that allow me to create a search looking for a value. So if I want to have a search looking for whether or not this box is checked, well, I can build that. And we can build them at the client level, location, and agent, which is very popular for a lot of people. A lot of people don't even know they can create those for groups. I can put an extra data field on a group, and I can use that for populating different searches and kind of running certain aspects of it. So if I create them, they're going to show up on this info tab. So again, just that added functionality that I can kind of create and customize. And then status, which is really cool because it just gives me kind of a bunch of cool gauges, and I can kind of take a look. Hey, this is my ConnectWise Automate client. Hey, I can see that it's got one remote monitor. I can double click on this. It's going to open up a data view. Internal monitors, I can kind of see the status of all the agents in this group. I can click on these gauges, and it's going to open up to a new screen, and I can dig a little deeper into what's going on. So again, default groups, we got a ton of them. You're creating your own. You got to figure out where to put it. You go in, you got to configure it, and then after you configure it, now you got to manage them. Now you get to play with all the bells and whistles that come with ConnectWise Automate. So let's kind of dig in there a little bit and kind of see what's going on. So here's my group structure. It all lives here. Now here's where I got to make my determination. Do I want to build a new group? Where am I going to put it? All right, if it's a new group, hey, I'm always going to create that custom. But you see here, if I want to create the parent, it has to be at this main top level holder here, where I can add group to it. I can do that. Boom, it's going to be here. And everything is right with the world. Now, if I want to say, hey, I want to create a new service plan under Windows servers that doesn't really have here. Now, if I right click there, you can see all the different kind of options that I have here. Here, if I add a group, now it's going to inherit a lot of the functionality from the parent group. So here's my child, here's the parent. So there's going to be some inheriting qualities there. Now, I'm not going to go into too much depth, but just want to show you, hey, if I open up custom, which is a parent group, I have the ability to set there, and here I have all of this, and here you can see I checked that box twice, which makes it my grayed out master. You hover over it, and you have the ability to do that, and I have everything else set. Now, if I come under here to my new group, well, you can see the type monitoring. Again, that's locked into the parent. I don't have the ability to change that. If I come in here and I look at some of the things I have here, there could be inherited things that I'm getting from the parent. Here's inherited, here's inherited. That means it's coming from a level above. So again, just kind of looking at the overall structure, I'm not going to go too in-depth here, but just know, hey, when I'm building a new one, is it going to be a child under an existing parent, or am I starting my own family? And you know what, I got to create the parent first. So not going to go into too much detail with that. I'll go ahead and jump into my custom one here and just show you I have the ability to set my type. Again, permissions allow me to kind of control permissions. It's just going to label it as a group that I can handle. Patching allows it to show up in the patch manager. A lot of these are just naming, so I can kind of group them all together. They don't have a lot of added functionality. Master group, we've already talked about that. I want to make sure I click that box twice. Depending on what version, how you're looking, it could be like this blue square, it could look like a radio button, could look like a grayed out checkbox. But just know when you create a new one, it's going to be blank, and I just want to check it twice. If I want to add a template here, I have the ability. I can create a new template from here. Tooch already talked about my auto joins, my limit to search. If I want to link this to a specific client, I have the ability. If I want to link it to a specific location, I have the ability to do that as well. If I want to assign a maintenance window, I can assign it an everyday maintenance window. If I want to create a new maintenance window, again, staying in here, I can handle everything from this screen. Permissions, if I have the user classes, I can add them here, and then any notes that I want to add. Again, just quickly breaking down everything here in my main screen. So pretty easy once you kind of know what all of these things are to kind of go through and kind of manage this. Now, let's kind of go through real quick and kind of show you. I like to use my Manage 24/7 because for me that's a very important one, but I just want one that I know has computers in. So here, computers, here's the members of my Manage 24/7. Like I said, I could right click in here, I can send commands to this device, I can run a script, I can work from this group if I need to. Scheduled scripts, which Tooch already showed you. Any scheduled scripts here, I can schedule that. I can include subgroups, so if I schedule it here, I build a subgroup, it can automatically kind of push that script to run in anything below it. So again, I can kind of build this out as I see fit. Internal monitors, again, why I use my Manage 24/7, because here's where we put all of our monitors on. By default, these are all going to be enabled, and you can see they're enabled here. You can see there's my inherited ones that from up above, so I have the ability to do that same thing with remote monitors. Same thing across the board, network devices, contacts, if I have anything here, info, if these values are there, status, again, these gauges. If I want to look at some of the missing patches, I can open that up and it opens up my patches missing data summary, and I can take a look and see what's going on here. Internal monitors. Oh, look, I have a total of 12. I can see which ones are active on this group. So again, just gives me the ability to kind of work from this, see everything that's going on. So I configure it with my main tab, I make sure it's doing exactly what I want it to do, and then I manage it depending on what type of group. Does it have computers? Does it have network devices? Does it have contacts? That is one thing we very much stress, is only use a group for a single item here. I don't want to try and populate, hey, computers, network devices, and contacts.
Right, no.
1-to-1 ratio here. I have a group for computers, I have a separate group for network devices, a separate group for contacts. So make sure we're all on the same page there. But these are groups. You can see real quick how important they are. With our service plans, that's obviously a big section. All the stuff that we kind of do here all revolve around our groups. We have our searches, populate the groups, and then boom,
Right.
we blow the system up with all of our pieces that we can do. Scripts, monitors, templates, all of that fun stuff that really drive all of our services.
Absolutely. It's the hub. Like you showed
really
in that
is.
blueprint. That's
Yep.
why it sits in the middle, because it pretty much distributes everything out of Automate.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to go through some of the questions. You either previously watched the groups video or you just watched it, as Tooch and I went through kind of a recapping of the group structure, what it means to ConnectWise Automate, learning about the auto join sequence, the limit to, and then breaking down kind of the default groups and how all the stuff inherits, and how do you want to create a group, where you want to create a group, all that fun stuff. So hopefully you got a lot out of it. Got a couple questions that I'm going to jump into and kind of begin with. If you have any more, go ahead and throw them into the Q&A pod. Probably right down here below me, there should be a Q&A pod. So go ahead and throw your questions in the air and we'll start calculating those up. But let's go ahead and go through my first one. So usually get this questions. I know we touched on the different types, and some of those are pretty, pretty easy to comprehend. Got one question about when would somebody use the exclusion group type, and always get a question about this. So I just want to kind of talk a little bit about the exclusion group and kind of demo that a little bit. Let me go ahead and open up my screen. So when you create a group, so let me just kind of open this bad boy up here, is you have all these different types, and exclusions is probably one of the more confusing ones, as that just allows me to create a group to exclude specific users from accessing the devices in that group. A perfect example is I have a fleet of technicians and they can work on any computer but the CEO. So I don't want to create all these different kind of user classes and create all these different permissions for each one and kind of omit that CEO's laptop from each one. I just want to create one group, and then I want to add that group to my users that I don't want to have access to that device. That's what the exclusion group is. So here you can see that in my demo, what I've done is I've created this exclusion group and just labeled it that type. You can see that I have that little red icon. That just indicates that this is an exclusion group, and it's been labeled as such. So I can kind of see, oh, I have an exclusion group. I open that up and it's got this Windows 7A, and I'm going to label this my boss's laptop that I don't want technicians to kind of mess around with. And kind of looking up, you can see that it's part of my ConnectWise Automate client under my main office. It's this right here. And the reason I'm showing you this is because it's pretty important to kind of see how this works as you see where this kind of computer lives as I start divvying out permissions for my technicians. I expand all agents, I expand all clients, and everything's good. I keep seeing that Windows 7A computer showing up there. Now for me, I'm an admin, so of course I can see everything. I'm super admin, so I'm not locking anything down. When it really comes to kind of using this exclusion group, we're really talking about our technicians. And how I get the most out of this is, let's say I have this test one technician here, and I want to add that exclusion group to their groups and clients tab. So it's kind of backwards if you think about it, is to kind of omit permissions from this technician. I have to add this group to that user. So it's kind of backwards, but what this does is that exclusion group in here, I go ahead and I make it part of this user's group membership. So if I'm able to view
that user's membership and I go to that client, I go to automate and expand down, you see I have 4 computers in there, but I don't see that Windows 7A. That exclusion group actually takes that device out of the client, out of the groups that this person is viewing, and doesn't allow them to do it. This just doesn't show up when they log in. I'll show you in a minute where I log in as this user and you can't even see it there. If I were to expand and I see that, this user has access to all agents and all clients, so if I come in here and I look at all agents and I'm like, whoa, there I see the Windows 7A, I thought you said it didn't show up. Here it will, just as a list, but you can see when I click on that, sending commands forbidden. It's not going to allow me to send any commands to this device. I look at any of the other devices and hey, all of the permissions that I've assigned accordingly to this user, they're all going to be there except for this one. This one, sending commands, is forbidden because it's in my exclusion group. I've excluded technicians be able to send commands to this device by putting an exclusion group and adding that exclusion group to this user, and that's how that exclusion group type works. You can see if I open up a regular user, they have all agents, all clients. I don't have them in that exclusion group, and I look at this user's permissions and I go to Client Automate. I look there, hey, there it is, and there I have all of my permissions accordingly. This user isn't a super admin, but again, it doesn't have that exclusion group added to its list of groups. So I'm not going to see that. I'm just going to see wherever I see that, I'm going to get access to all the commands that are applicable to that device. So that's where you kind of see I have one technician, you know what, they're new. Hey, don't be messing around with any of the groups that are in here or any of the devices that are in my exclusion group. And that's basically how that works. And you can kind of see when I log in and I'm logged in as that test 1, you can see I've only given them access to all agents and all clients. They're there, but I don't see that Windows 7A computer anywhere in here. When I log in, hey, it's not there. It's just flat out not in the list. So I can't send commands to it. I can come in here and I can send all the commands that I need to do or whatever this user is designed or set up for. Everything's copacetic, but I just won't see that device that's in that exclusion group. And that's basically what that type is. It just allows me to lock down a specific computer or a group of computers that I don't want anybody sending commands to. I don't want it to show up in their list. I don't want them to accidentally do anything with it. I don't want them to run a script on it. I can just kind of pretty much remove it from the list or exclude it from that user's view so I don't cause any problems. And again, it only works when I create that exclusion group and then I have to go to that user and in the groups and clients tab on their permissions, I got to add that group to them, and that's what locks that down. So again, cool question. I know I can't remember any time I've actually got to talk about that exclusion type group. It's always the one that people keep asking about, never had the chance to actually demo it out. Always said it's like, oh, well, you create a group and then you add it to the user and then whatever devices are in that group, they won't have access to. And that pretty much is like, okay. Now in this forum, hey, I get to break that down. We're specifically talking about groups and group types. Boom. All right, so hopefully that answers the question on that exclusion type. So had another kind of generic question of how can I add a group to the patch manager? Now in this setting, I'm assuming that you want to kind of, hey, how quickly can I get it to populate the patch manager from outside the patch manager? But I'll also show you a couple different ways. I know this isn't a patch management webinar, but I'll go ahead and I'll answer this question a couple different ways here if you'll allow me to. So here, we're back on types, and to show up in the patch manager, I need a group to have that patching type. So pretty much all I have to do is create a new group, rename it, webinar demo. Make sure I always check that box twice to make that a grade master. That's usually the second thing I do after I rename it, is I make it that grayed out master group, which again allows it to play nice with all of the groups. And then all I need to do to get it to show up in the patch manager is just make it that patching type group. And it's going to allow me to save that And here I'll go ahead and reload my system cache. Here I have my patch manager, and here you can see I created this PM demo earlier. And then if I come in here and I refresh, you can see there's my webinar demo. So when I create a new group and I label it patching, all I have to do is refresh the configuration, the group section, and it'll automatically put that group at the top of the list. So if I have a bunch of groups that I want to customize and bring in here, it might be kind of a pain to kind of, you know what, I want to create a new group, and you know what, I want to do all these in mass. So I have to kind of go through this process and do one each individually. That is possible here, and I don't want to say it's not possible. That's one cool thing about the patch manager. But I've also seen partners, you know what, I want to create my own, patching structure, and it's just easier for me to kind of configure it and do everything here. Well, if I do that, then you know what, I can just kind of create additional groups underneath this group, or add a child to my parent group. And then that allows me to kind of bring them in all at one, because you can see obviously it's going to inherit that type from its parent being the child. And then each group I kind of build within that structure. Make sure that I always click on something and then make it slow down. Reload that cache. And then all I have to do, open tickets there, is kind of build out that structure moving forward. So again, I can build them within the patch manager, or I can kind of create that structure out and kind of just import them in by using that patching type. That's what that patching type is used for. We have a default patching. If you're using the new patch manager, we kind of create this patching type, but this is kind of load all of our stuff, and you can see here's all my default patching groups in here. So I use that to kind of populate that group. You can do it either way. If you want to create your own, kind of build your own custom to kind of keep it away, maybe change the naming convention so you know that it says custom before you bring it in there, and you're ready to rock and roll. So within Automate, I think we always preface this, there's more than one way to get the job done, but you have the ability to kind of do that a couple different ways. Now, that is all the questions that I had come in here between the time we recorded and until now. So now it's up to all of you. If you have any questions about groups or anything that's going on, we do have the ability for you to do that. So I know we have one just pop up, and I'm looking at the screen right now. Okay, so we have a monitoring question kind of tied to groups. When I try to disable a global monitor, it states this monitor is not assigned to any other groups. Please assign it to a group first. However, I do not need this monitor applied to any other group. Is it possible to disable the monitor without applying it somewhere else? Example, Hitman Pro auto license applied as a global monitor in the 24/7 server group. So we're talking about disabling a monitor and not have it show up. I'm assuming this is going to be my internal monitor, obviously. And it's here, and it won't let you. Let's see if I know one that's assigned. So when you do that, it says it won't allow you because it's assigned to another group. So I know you're talking about disabled. If you're not using it, you can delete it, and you want to do it underneath the service plan from here. All right. Now we're getting cooking a little. So here we are in my 24/7. Here we have a global monitor. So if it's assigned as global, that means that it's not assigned to any group. So basically I'm not going to see it on here. Well, if it wasn't assigned, I'd see it marked as global. But if I open up a monitor, I'll use a copy of this. When it's a global monitor, what that means is I don't have any targets assigned to it. So when I do that, it flips that switch. It's like, oh, when I have a monitor that's not assigned to any groups, it's automatically global and it's assigned everywhere. So the only way to kind of get rid of that is to either delete it if you're not using that and you're never going to use it. That's the only way to get it from showing up. So that is kind of the kind of, oh, maybe I don't want to do that. What we've always kind of told people is to create what we call like a monitor catch-all. And that's just creating a group that, you know what, I don't really need this monitor. I don't want to delete it, because that is an option to just delete it. But you know what, I don't want to delete it because I may use it in the future. So what I typically tell people is if there's anyone that I want to kind of use in that fashion, is I'll create what I always call a monitor catch-all. And I'll keep it original. I always like to save it. Reload system cache, just to kind of make sure everything is good. And then if I open that up and I have any internal monitors that I see are global, what I'll do here is on this group, I'll set them to enable, and then they're just active here. And that's really the easiest way to kind of handle that, is create that monitor catch-all, because unless you assign it to another group, it's always going to be global. And if you don't want to delete it, then you have to assign it to a different group. So what you can do is just create a new group, monitor catch-all, go in there. If you see anything that's labeled as global, just right-click it and hit it on enable, and then it's just enabled here. There aren't any devices here. I'm not using this to do anything, but it also disables it everywhere else, so you don't have to worry about it. So that's pretty much your two options, is either delete it if you know you're never going to use it again, but some people are a little leery about deleting monitors, or create that monitor catch-all, find that global monitor, enable it here, and it's only enabled here, and it's not anywhere else, and then you won't have any devices. I'm not going to put a search on this. I'm not going to do anything here. I'm just going to use this, and anything that's set to global, I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to flip it over to enable, and then I won't have to worry about it anymore. So hopefully that gives you a couple different options to kind of handle that. Yeah, a couple different times we get asked that questions. Usually we're doing like our training sessions. And it's like, hey, I have all these monitors that I don't want to use. Put them in the catch-all. Just, you know, remove it, go to there, remove it from the target. Remove it from the target, whatever one it is. Go to the monitor target, remove it from here, and then go to that catch-all, and then boom, flip it over. That should handle anything moving forward. Now you have that repository already built, so anything time that happens in the future, you have a quick way to deal with it. All right. That's one more question down. I know people are out there frantically typing questions, and we're going to see one pop up any second now about groups or monitors on groups or something else that I'm not thinking of right now. So I'll give you just another minute. I'll spend this time deleting all of the groups that I've created while I was here, and then I don't want my test environment to have all of this stuff in here that I'm not going to use. Like I said, groups are pretty much the foundation of automation. I know we showed you that kind of picture or kind of screenshot. If I go, for more information of kind of what that plays into, if you've never been there before, all of our blueprints, that picture of that blueprint, if you've never seen those before from our partner portal, we do have underneath the education, we have blueprints, and that little picture had a little bit of an issue with the internet in this room, and it seems to be blocking all access. So path. Well, maybe you all can get there if you go to the blueprints and just pick on automation. It should be there, ready to rock and roll for you. Any other questions out there? So I guess that means that we're all done. So again, thank you for hanging out with us today. If you have any additional questions, if you rewatch the video and you're like, oh man, now I have a great question to ask, go ahead and submit it to education@connectwise.com and just mention the group's webinar and just say, hey Chris, I have this question that I didn't get a chance to ask during that. It'll come to me and I'll shoot you an email and I'll get that answered for you. Any questions about anything, pretty much go ahead and throw them out there. Hope you enlightened yourselves on all things groups and the importance of groups within ConnectWise Automate. And I want you to have a great day, and we'll see you around our next webinar. Take care, everyone.
ConnectWise is a
community-driven
software company
dedicated
to the success
of technology solution providers.
Our suite helps you
manage your business better,
sell more efficiently,
Automate service delivery
and remotely control technology
so you can consistently deliver
amazing
amazing
customer experiences.